breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via link from the Score North website. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is Robbie Rosenhaus, does a great job getting us on the air, pulling all of our clips from Robbie. Another rather disappointing, disheartening loss. The roller coaster season for the Vikings and JJ McCarthy continues after that big win in Detroit, probably their biggest win in many years, shall we say. And then they followed up with a game that was eminently winnable against the Ravens, but penalty problems, 3 turnovers, 13 penalties, 8 false starts. That's going to do you in almost every time, especially when you lose that turnover battle 3-0, and it sets up the Ravens for 13 points. McCarthy, an up and down game. He started out hot, had that great first throw to Naylor for 62 yards. And we're going to hit some of these audio highlights shortly and then hear from Kevin O'Connell and McCarthy and a couple other players. It just was a game that I felt the defense played decently enough to win the game, kind of kept them in the game. They hold Lamar Jackson to 176 yards passing, hold Derrick Henry to 75 yards rushing. But on a third quarter drive, he had 47 yards on a drive early fourth quarter, which led to putting the Ravens up by 2 touchdowns. And at that point in time, the Vikings tried to battle back, give McCarthy credit. He gamely fought and led a drive for a touchdown. Great catch by Jalen Naylor, pulled them within 8, but they just couldn't get it done in the end. The defense had another stop. Andrew Van Ginkel, almost a game-changing interception that he deflects, and he and Lamar are battling for the ball. Lamar bats it down, and then the Vikings get the ball back with a little under 2 minutes to go, and they just can't move the ball efficiently enough. McCarthy, a couple of erratic throws, and he missed a lot of receivers in this game. He made some good throws, but made a lot of bad throws. But he didn't also get a lot of help that he needs. And I'm talking about the penalties that put them behind the chains so often. The eight false starts, it's just ridiculous that happens in a home game. And whether the Ravens are trying to simulate the snap count or whether McCarthy's doing a hard count and getting his own players messed up, they got to figure that out, because that just can't happen. Robbie, they went to Detroit at Ford Field and had no false starts on the road. They come back home and have 8 false starts in a home game, the most by an NFL team since 2009.
Yeah, and you mentioned the penalties, and you've been harping on the penalties, and right there, you mentioned it 8 times. They went offsides. For me, it was not to say I told you so last week when we previewed the game, but the number one thing that rolled off of my lips when we previewed what was going to happen on Sunday was special teams, and how Harbaugh was a former special teams coach. And the biggest play of the game, people are going to point to the 2nd and 1 or the 3rd and 1 when they threw it long to JJ, singled up.
No. I agree with you, what you're going to tell me.
It wasn't that. It was the Miles Price fumble. When they
Yes.
went down 12-10, and they got the ball back, the game was still up for grabs. You cannot give the other team basically a double possession there to go up by 2 scores and then have them pin their ears back and go after your rookie quarterback. That exactly changed the game. And when they did that, I thought the game was lost, and it was.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that. That was, to me, the biggest play of the game. And there were a lot of big plays in the game. We know that. But certainly, I think the Miles Price fumble after the Ravens kicked the field goal, it was really almost an 11 and a half minute stretch from the end of the first half when the Vikings had that bad series. The Ravens kick a field goal. The Vikings have a bad 3-and-out. And McCarthy should have taken a sack, which he said after the game, and said he throws it away, stops the clock. Lamar has a good 40 seconds, and that's all he needed to get the Ravens down into field goal range. And things happen. A big sack by Dallas Turner turns into a roughing the passer because another young player has to learn, don't throw your body fully on the quarterback. If you're hitting him, kind of slide off or lean to your left or something, because they're going to call that. And that made it a much easier field goal for Loop at that point, that brought the Ravens within one at halftime. And as I said, and as you said, then the Vikings can't move it early in the third quarter. The Ravens get the ball back and have a field goal, and then immediately, and of course that first series was the 3rd-and-1 in question, where probably Kevin O'Connell should have run the ball. The Vikings were running it very effectively at that point. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason averaging over 6 yards a carry. Went for the kill shot on the 3rd-and-1. Got the zero coverage one-on-one on Jefferson, and unfortunately he got his feet tangled up with Marlon Humphrey. Easy interception. But to me, I'm going to put that partially on Justin. He is arguably the best receiver in the game. Don't get yourself in that position. You got one-on-one, make a move away from the guy, and you're going to beat him. And then McCarthy can lead you wherever he's going to lead you. And to me, some of the Vikings' best players in this game did not come through. And I'm talking about Jefferson. Great player. He had one of the false starts. He had a drop touchdown pass in this game. Was not an easy play, but he has to make that catch on the goal line. That's a big play. Perfect throw from McCarthy. And then on the other interception, the first interception, he really didn't have a chance. It was thrown into double coverage. Second interception, he trips up. So Justin has to be better. Brian O'Neill, another team captain, 3 false starts. He was beat several times on pass rushes. And whether his knee is still problematic, whatever the case may be, he has to play better. And so I think there were a lot of factors at work in this game, but ultimately for the Ravens, a huge win gets them to 4-5, their 3rd straight win. Now they're a game behind the Steelers, who lost to the Chargers. The Vikings dropped to 4-5, sets up what I would call another must-win game on Sunday against the Bears, who the Vikings beat in the opener 27-24. And of course, McCarthy had that monumental 4th quarter, 2 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown rushing. He's going to have a repeat performance. He's on the roller coaster, which is somewhat what you expect from and you mentioned a rookie quarterback. He's in his 2nd year, but essentially he is a rookie.
Well, that's what I meant. His first year,
because he sat out all last year.
Everybody knows, right?
Everybody knows. From our perspective, he's a rookie quarterback, and that's often what you get from a rookie quarterback, other than Jaden Daniels last year. But for McCarthy, he's having his growing pains, and we're seeing it live in color and action every week. He's missing throws. He's making great throws. He'll miss an easy throw. He tries to throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball at Aaron Jones, who's about 10 feet from him on one screen pass. He's got to be better, and he's a gamer. He tried to do some damage with his legs. He made some good plays running the ball, but ultimately the last drive, poor clock management, bad throws, and the Vikings get the ball back with 1:44 left and can't move past their 40-yard line. And part of the problem there was another penalty on the punt return on McLaughlin, and it sets them back to the 8-yard line to start the drive. Those are all things that have to be cleaned up, and we'll hear from the coach. He talks about it. All the players are talking about it. But let's go to some of our audio highlights first. And an exciting game if you didn't care who won, because there were a lot of big plays in the game. And here was the first big play. Jalen Naylor had a terrific day, 5 catches, 124 yards. And this 62-yard reception from J.J. McCarthy on the Vikings' first series.
McCarthy on third down, floating it up for Naylor, and he drops a dime. Naylor with a move and a stiff arm, still on his feet. Another stiff arm and down inside the 5. Alohi Gilman saves a touchdown.
And when you see plays like that, Robbie, it just shows you, reinforces the talent that J.J. McCarthy has. But the challenge for Kevin O'Connell is to harness his bad plays and accentuate the good plays. And I think that will happen over time. The question is, will it happen this year? Time is getting short, and they're in a tough stretch now. The Ravens are a quality team. We know that. Good defense, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. As I said, the defense did an efficient enough job, but when you lose the turnover battle 3-0, you have 13 penalties, most of them on the offense. It makes it really tough. And so that's the big challenge. Can they get this thing turned around in a tough stretch? Baltimore have the Bears on Sunday. The Bears are riding high after beating the Giants, getting Brian Dable fired in New York. and so Caleb Williams comes in off a winning touchdown run. Bears are 6-3. If the Packers, we're recording this on Monday afternoon, if the Packers lose to the Eagles tonight, and you might notice I'm wearing my green, Robbie, and that's for Philadelphia, not for Green Bay. even though we Viking people are not Eagles fans either necessarily.
No.
Except when they play the Packers.
Maybe not even.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Maybe they'll have another tie or something, but
perhaps.
If the Eagles were to beat the Packers, then the Bears are tied for first place with the Lions, who rolled over Washington in their revenge game from getting walloped in the playoffs last year by Jaden Daniels and company. But back to our audio highlights. The big catch by Jalen Nair set up this touchdown run by Aaron Jones. Had another good game. They just couldn't get the ball to him enough because all these penalties put him behind the chains and forced O'Connell, in his mind, to have to throw the ball a lot more than he probably wanted to.
It's Jones to the left and Jones to the end zone. Vikings on top early in Minnesota.
We move to the third quarter, and here's the 3rd and 1 play we talked about. Kevin O'Connell said post game that he called for the pass play, figuring to get the zero coverage on Jefferson. Wanted to take a shot, figured that he would run the ball on 4th down. They were at midfield at this point, and here's what happened.
On 3rd and 1, McCarthy looking deep. Down the middle, Jefferson and Humphrey get tangled up, and it's an interception by Marlon Humphrey. Humphrey trying to find some room to run, and Humphrey out of bounds near the 30-yard line.
And again, that was one of the 3 turnovers that set up 13 points for the Ravens. We moved on after that interception. The Ravens drive for a field goal, kickoff, and here is the play that Robbie and I were talking about.
Miles Price across the 20-yard line and good coverage by the Ravens. The ball's out. The ball popping out at the 23-yard line.
And that wasn't just the first time, Jeff, that he fumbled, because if you remember, the next time he got his hands on the ball, he fumbled again, and the Vikings were very lucky to recover that one.
Yeah, Ben Urasek, the tight end, got the recovery on that one. That, again, it just can't happen. He has got to have better ball protection, and I'm sure Matt Daniels, the special teams coach, will be harping on that. Miles Price, a talented guy, had the big game in Detroit, but again, rookies on roller coasters. We're talking about McCarthy, and here's Price doing the same kind of thing off a great game in Detroit. Has a terrible game against the Ravens, who we know, as you said, great special teams, and they're going to go after that ball. And then that sets up another big play, and the Ravens, after that fumble, go on and score a touchdown. Here is Lamar Jackson, 2-yard pass to Mark Andrews.
Jackson on the roll, back in the end zone, and it is caught goes with the touchdown.
That was a first and goal from the 2 play action, and Josh Metellus appeared to be the defender who should have picked up Andrews. It looked like Harrison Smith was signaling to Metellus to come over, and he didn't get over in time. And at that point, the Vikings are in big, big trouble, down 27-13. As I said, Gamely fight back, and McCarthy makes some big plays with his legs. Kind of a circus catch by Naylor to set him up in the red zone. And then this touchdown pass on 4th and 10, which was a great catch by Naylor with a toe tap.
To the back of the end zone, it's Naylor reaching out. He got his feet in. It's a touchdown.
And that was it. That was the final 27-19. The defense got another stop. As I said, on that series, a couple things happened. There was a bobble on an end around by Zay Flowers. Ball bounces right back to him. And on that same series, Van Ginkel deflects the pass on 3rd down. If he could have spotted the ball, but Lamar Jackson saw it first and knocked it down, but stopped the clock. Vikings got the ball back plenty of time and just couldn't do it. It was a game, Robbie. The Vikings had several passes they deflected, and balls were up in the air, and they just couldn't come down with the interception or pick up the fumble. The ball bounced the right way for Baltimore, did not bounce the right way for the Vikings. And that's usually what happens in a loss.
I mean, let's be fair. I mean, the Ravens did not bring their A game. I'm not even sure they brought their B game. They beat the Vikings with their C game because the Vikings basically threw up all over their answer sheet. They weren't even able to turn their test in because their answer sheet was basically filled with coffee stains and with other things that stained it because they weren't able to complete the game fresh, as we said, with all these penalties and all these turnovers. And as you have so eloquently said, as during the first basically 20 minutes of this episode, the Ravens didn't come in there and beat the Vikings. The Vikings beat themselves.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. And you think about some things that happened to McCarthy. There were about 4 or 5 passes deflected at the line of scrimmage, and he's got to figure out how to avoid those situations. The offensive line could have played better. We know that. They did okay with the run, not so much with the pass. Let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. GMC trucks weren't built overnight. Like every American achievement, they are a result of dedication, a dedication to mastering the art of design and the science of engineering, to building upon prior knowledge year after year, decade after decade. GMC, over 100 years dedicated to the art of engineering and the ambition to always move this country forward. We are professional grade, well-qualified buyers. Get 0% APR on 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 crew cab models with a 5.3 liter engine with an average finance savings of $4,962, $4,692. Sorry about that. See your local GMC dealer today. Only on 5.3 liter V8 engine for purchase allowance. Length of contract limited. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers will not qualify. Savings based on bank rate of 5.64%. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 12/1/25. Kevin O'Connell talked post-game about the false starts, the turnovers, and the Bears coming up.
The penalty situation and the turnover situation being what it was, when you average over 6 yards of play on offense, it's all for naught if you're going to be giving back so many of those yards in different capacities. We've got to find a way to first and foremost correct whatever the issue was. Normally, we can do that in game if there's an issue, but there just seemed to be a flinch here and there, way too much. So if there was any uncertainty of what we were doing, that obviously is something we've got to get corrected, no matter who's in the game and all those things. Something we've got to do. We are right back here in a week with a division game, chance to go 3-0 in the division. But to me, we will, consistently build on the good practice week we had. This team's not a results-based team that will prepare any different, but they're obviously an upset group in there that thought we, could have done a lot of things better in the game to win the game, while also doing a lot of things that were that gave us a chance to win a game when the circumstances were, in many cases, caused by us against a good football team like that.
Kevin, not happy with what's going on with that offense, but he has to take responsibility for cleaning it up and getting them on track and figuring out what the problem was with all those false starts and whether it's not so many hard counts from JJ or not so many different cadence calls, simplify things, but cannot happen what happened against the Ravens. JJ McCarthy talked about the disappointment with the loss.
Very disappointing to come out U.S. Bank Stadium and leave with a loss, but I felt like there was a lot of good things that we did. 360 yards total offense, 6.6 yards a play or something like that. It was there. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, and I take full responsibility for the pre-snap procedural penalties. We got 3 turnovers and just too many things that don't set us up for success, when the clock hits 0. So we just got to go back to work, watch this film, and, really clean up all the little things, because that's what hurt us today.
Yeah, JJ had another up and down game, as we saw. He was hit 12 times. The Ravens only sacked him once, but they put pressure on, and too many kind of wild, erratic throws. That's something that he's just got to become more accurate. He's under 60% passer this season, and that is not good enough in the NFL. Miles Price, we talked about the running game, good, but wasted to a certain extent because of the penalties and the defense making a lot of plays. Jonathan Grenard, when he left the game, it did hurt the defense, the pass rush, and the run defense. He is obviously one of their best defensive players. Had a shoulder injury, left in the third quarter. Kevin O'Connell did say today that it appears he came out of it without a serious shoulder problem. So he is potentially going to be available for the Bears game. We'll see. Josh Oliver, the tight end, really important in pass protection and the run game, who's missed the last couple games. It looks like he's coming back to practice this week and could play against the Bears too. So we'll see what happens with Ryan Kelly. They're talking about maybe opening his practice window, the center who's been dealing with concussions. Jalen Naylor, we talked about, had a terrific game and definitely an emerging player. He's going to be a free agent after this season. Not sure if the Vikings are going to have the cap room to sign him, but it'd be nice if they could figure out a way to do it, maybe get him extended before he hits free agency. But Jalen Naylor, 5 catches, 124 yards, 1 touchdown, and several difficult catches, and he talked post-game.
Sometimes you got to take away our best guy, and the other guys got to step up. And today it was me, and I made the most of those opportunities.
You've been doing this for a while. What's it feel like to get rewarded some?
It feels good. I mean, it would have felt better with a W, but I'm happy with the way I played. Just got to go back to the drawing board, get back to our offense, man. You got to limit the penalties and just play more complimentary football on all 3 phases.
Andrew Van Ginkel, again, a playmaker, had another impactful game for the defense, and he, really important guy, had 4 tackles, a quarterback hit, 2 passes defensed, including the near interception that would have been a potential game changer late in the game. Andrew Van Ginkel spoke after the game at the press conferences and talked about the Vikings defense and about that near interception that he had.
We knew it was going to take all 11 of us, getting to the ball and just trying to slow the run game down. And we got some tip passes, and we just got to find a way to come down with them.
What was the biggest challenge facing that offense?
I mean, they got Lamar, they got Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. They're a talented group. They're physical. They're going to run at you, and they got playmakers all over the field. So we knew it was going to be a tough task, and we knew it was going to take 4 quarters, and that we had to play to the best of our ability.
So the Vikings 4-5, and will face the Bears on Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium. As I said, must-win game, and that's going to be a big one. We'll see if the Vikings can have another bounce back. They're 2-0 in the NFC North with a huge 2-week stretch coming. The Bears here and then at Green Bay. Green Bay has been an up and down team lately and has lost some home games, including to Carolina last week, and face the Eagles this week. We'll see how that one turns out. But it's going to be certainly if the Vikings can find a way to become more consistent, become more penalty free, not turn the ball over. They're one of the worst teams in the league turnover ratio this year after being one of the best last year. Need more takeaways. And those are going to be some of the keys to turning this thing around as they come into the stretch of games. Here's our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. Then we're going to talk about some of the games around the league from Sunday.
GMC trucks weren't built overnight. Like every American achievement, they are a result of dedication and the ambition to always move this country forward. We are professional grade. Well-qualified buyers get 0% APR on 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Elevation Crew Cab models with a Turbo Max engine. That's an average finance savings of $49.49. Current eligible GMC owners combine it with $1,350 engine credit plus $1,750 bonus cash and $3,500 GMC loyalty cash to get over $11,500 in total value. That's 20% below MSRP. See your local GMC dealer today. Based on MSRP of $55,370. Must be a current owner of a 2011 model year or newer Buick or GMC vehicle, or a current lessee of a 2020 model year or newer Buick or GMC vehicle through GM Financial for at least 30 days prior to new vehicle sale. Length of contract limited. Some customers will not qualify. Savings based on a bank rate of 5.22%. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 12/1/25.
In the NFC North, the Detroit Lions bounced back from their disappointing loss to the Vikings at home, and they went to Washington for a little revenge game from getting knocked out of the playoffs last year by the Commanders and drilled them pretty good, 44-22. Jared Goff 3 touchdown passes in the game. The Lions rang up 546 total yards. Jahmyr Gibbs 142 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. The Lions looked very good on Sunday, but there was no Jaden Daniels for the Commanders, and they're a different team without him.
And they just changed their defensive coordinator play calling duties. Dan Quinn is now going to call plays in Washington. The defensive coordinator was stripped of those duties after giving up those many points and yards yesterday, as you said.
Yeah, and interestingly, Dan Campbell called plays for the Lions offensively after the Vikings lost. So he took over those duties from their offensive coordinator. The Bears, as we mentioned, the Vikings opponent this Sunday, 24-20 over the Giants. A late touchdown run by Caleb Williams, 17 yards with a minute 47 left, won that game. And the Bears are one of the, I guess, surprise teams in the league this year, but there's a ways to go, and they've got a lot of tough games ahead. They've probably benefited from that 4th place schedule and playing a team like the Giants, who are obviously struggling and fired their coach afterwards. And so
they wouldn't have won. They wouldn't have won that game had Dart not got hurt. Like, Wilson came in and he was terrible. They basically tanked the rest of that game by throwing him in there. Dart was playing well. They were winning, and then the Bears came back, and that's the second time this year the Giants have done that, right? Went to Denver, gave up all those points, and now yesterday in Chicago. So, but at least they have a keeper in Dart, right?
Yes, I think they do. And again, got to stay healthy. And so that's a key factor for any team.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Philly on Monday night. The big upset around the NFL, the Dolphins all over the Bills, 30-13. That was a semi-shocker. Probably for people in survivor pools and
if they weren't knocked out last week by the Panthers or the Vikings, this week they were knocked out by the Dolphins, right?
Right, and the Panthers, after their Packer win, they lose to the Saints.
Big egg. Oof, they laid an egg.
So that's I guess if the Vikings can get their act together and win a bunch of games, that was helpful because Carolina has 5 wins.
And you didn't mention that one game that you had predicted incorrectly was the Bucs beating the Patriots. You were wrong on that one. That Patriot team is for real. Tell the listeners your thoughts about Drake May And he may have been the apple of this coach's eye here in Minnesota, but he's certainly doing some wonderful things in New England.
Yeah, he did. And it was really the running game on Sunday that did the damage over the Bucks, and their defense had a big hold at the end when Baker Mayfield was trying to drive for the winning touchdown. So the Patriots are sitting at what, 8-2?
8-2, yeah, at the top of the division, and it looks like after everybody thought Buffalo was going to win that in a canter, they're now 2.5 games behind the Patriots, and they've already lost to New England once this year. So New England looks like they're going to be back in the playoffs after what, a 5 or 6 year, 7-year absence.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, but
pretty,
Buffalo
pretty
actually,
incredible.
yeah, actually Buffalo's 6-3, game and a half back, but
Game and a half, not 2.5. Okay.
Yeah, the Patriots are starting to make a move there. The Rams had a big win over the 49ers in San Francisco. Matthew Stafford having an MVP type season, 4 more touchdown passes, 42-28. And Seattle's still rolling. Sam Darnold only had to throw 12 passes in the game because they ran all over Arizona for 198 yards. And so the Seahawks and the Rams are at the top of the NFC West. And the Vikings will see the Seahawks in a couple weeks too out in Seattle. So this tough stretch continues. Bears, as we said, coming up on Sunday at US Bank Stadium. Really a critical game for the Vikings, and we will break it down on Thursday and talk about the keys to the game, what needs to happen, and it'll start with don't jump off sides.
Right.
So, and be more consistent on both sides of the ball, and don't fumble the ball in the return game. Don't turn it over, force takeaways. It's pretty easy to figure out what the Vikings need to do to win some games here, and kind of do what they did in Detroit, which was basically play pretty well. They still had some mistakes in that game, but just need to be more consistent as a football team. And it starts with their second year / rookie quarterback, JJ McCarthy, not turning the ball over and becoming more consistent with his completions. So we'll be back on Thursday, preview the Vikings and the Bears. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via link from the Score North website. This is Jeff Diamond with Robbie Rosenhaus, and we will talk to you on Thursday.